All right, and now we see if anyone shows up to my hotel room where I will show them how to fry chicken. Oh, let's see. Let's see if anyone shows up. Normally there's someone here. Normally there's someone here. Oh. G'day, Charlie, mate. How are you, Charlie? Hang on, you're muted. There you go.
Now I'm unmuted. I'm so excited.
Excellent. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
So I've got to get my apron on.
How are you going?
Oh, fucking jet lag is kicking my butt at the moment.
When did you get in?
I got in yesterday at 5:30, maybe 6:15. We got down to the hotel. We're on the Gold Coast. We got shipped down to the Gold Coast to a hotel, which is great because you have a balcony and a view of the ocean. So Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
It took like 5 hours. And then, I get here and it's fucking midnight and I slept until midnight. I slept from midnight until like an hour ago. So happy days. Teddy.
Shit. That is a lot. But I guess, this is going to help you feel exhausted and then you can get to sleep and get back on Australian time. I don't know. Is there?
I'm definitely not sleeping for a long time. There's no doubt about that. It is very good. It is very, very nice.
Good,
So,
good.
are you frying along? Are you frying, Charlie? We doing it?
We are frying. We have a whole chicken brine.
Fuck yes.
Is
Did you
going
break
to be
it down?
pretty good. I was really lazy and I got the guys at Human Shop to do it.
Yeah, great. Who cares?
Yeah. Because I looked at it and went, I can do this. I haven't done this for about 10 years. No, someone else can do this.
Some motherfuckers can earn their money at Hill and Strock. Like, I'm sorry. They can fucking earn it.
Yeah. That's what I think.
Yeah.
But
Wholeheartedly.
yeah. I took to heart you'll get the best chicken you can advice.
Yeah, well, they have nice chooks, though. They have great chooks there.
Yeah.
So you know, though, will you be temperature probing this bird?
I am ready.
Oh, yeah, great. So if you got it from Hill and Strock, normally those birds are pink up until like they're cooked from 63, 64 degrees, but they'll show like residual pinkness up until like 74, 75. So if it's probing above 75 and it's still a bit pink, it's totally fine. It's just the bird.
Okay.
Like it's just that the birds are a lot healthier. They've got a lot more sort of, a lot more shit going on in them. And even post brine, it's still
All right.
keep that in mind. The higher quality. But look, I'm pumped. Fucking backseat driving here, sitting in this lovely fucking hotel room. It's a weird one. But okay, let's go. Let's get your oil on, Charlie. Let's go.
I'm on. There's the mashed potatoes.
Oh, fuck.
Oil's already at temp almost.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so hang on. Let me see the
Can't give you
setup.
away.
Let me see the setup you've got in terms of your chicken, where your buttermilk is, where your flour is.
Oh, here we go. It's a slight mess.
Okay,
chicken.
Great. And then where's your buttermilk and your flour?
Buttermilk's over there.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Flour's there. That's
Yeah,
like, yeah.
flour's there. So what I'm going to do is separate half the flour out, just so that you can add more when you need it. Because if too much buttermilk gets into the flour, it's going to clump up, and then you kind of lose the flour pretty quickly. So if you separate half out, so you can add more.
You want to mix that?
Awesome. No, yeah, it's just half of it. I've already mixed. I mixed it badly though, so
Happy day.
perfect.
This feels kind of right.
Yeah. Nice. What else do we need to do? Buttermilk in the little thing.
Buttermilk in the little thing, and then what you've got to keep in mind when you're doing this is you've got to try and keep one hand for dry ingredients and one hand for wet ingredients. So what that means is you don't want to be putting, if you've got your right hand using the chicken to roll it over in the buttermilk, you don't want to then put that right hand into the flour mix, because the flour mix will get all cluggy, which is what we want to try and avoid.
Yeah.
It's 100% what we want to try.
Right.
Fucking hell, I think we've started closer to time right now than any other week. Fucking
It's
hell.
great. You should be in quarantine more often.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, sweet.
Do you want me to get a phone dialed in? See if you can.
If you can get it up, have a double setup. That's a great idea. That is a great idea. You look after that. Meanwhile, Eddie man, how the fuck are you?
Oh, really good, Danny boy. I was actually just going to chime in anyway. I'm keen at some point. I know I don't want to kind of derail the whole thing, but I'd love a tour of your new digs as well. We're staring down the barrel of the same in the coming weeks, months, and love to see what we might be looking at.
Look, I think I got pretty lucky in this one. We got shipped down to the Gold Coast, to the Crown Plaza, Schoolies Haven.
Yeah, right.
I think it's really important if you can get a letter that says you're claustrophobic and you suffer from mental illnesses related to claustrophobia. Because then they are obliged to give you fresh air and not like a closed box. So if you can manage that, you can just pay a doctor to do it, which is what I did. It's pretty. I've actually we've got a big balcony overlooking the water down the Gold Coast. You know, Kookaburra's chiming. It's just a big welcome home.
So next week we're doing an outdoor barbecue or something.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Next week, outdoor
Open
barbecue.
fire.
Yeah. Get it out in the open fire. Get a couple of birds down. It'll be a treat. But no, absolutely. I'll definitely give you a tour of the digs. It's actually it's pretty good. No, there's a bath. There are lots of reflective surfaces for inappropriate photos. It's
Right.
Fantastic.
Great. Okay, I'll look forward to some content then.
Yeah. Woefully inappropriate content. How's it looking with the flight pursuit?
Flights are a kind of an impending issue, but we've had our 6th rejection on this one to enter the country. So yeah, it's a challenge, but we're chipping away at it. We'll just keep going and get it done.
Good.
Yeah, all good. Well, maybe we'll be seeing you there soon.
Yeah.
Real time cook up.
Yeah, real time cook up. Exactly. Oh, good. I'm very glad to hear that. I'm very, very glad to hear that. Meanwhile, enjoy the darkness over this side. It's a pleasure. I didn't realize I forgot the time changed by an hour last week. And I looked it up and I was like, oh, fuck, 4:30. That's going to be a stretch. It'll be a massive stretch. All right, Charlie's iPhone is on. Charlie, sign up.
Take it away, Charlie.
I don't know. You take it away.
Me?
I'm terrible.
Yes. All right, there we go. Okay, so tell me this. What temperature is the oil at? Where are we at? This is a great setup.
Where's our probo?
We are at 150, probably 175.
Okay, great. So you could actually, once it gets up to about 180, because when the chicken goes in, obviously the temperature is going to drop a little bit. So initially you want to push it up to about 180, 185. Then you want to get in. You want to be holding the temp at around about 165, 170, and not too much higher. Otherwise, what's going to happen is things it's not that they'll burn, but or overcook really. But you just get a better coloration of around 165, 170. So I mean, if you'd like, you could probably put the first piece in. Let me check. Let's see what pieces you have down there. Okay. Lovely.
What should I choose? A drummy?
I think go a drummy and maybe a thigh.
All right.
Those thighs look pretty big, which is great. So Roland, that's good. Maintain a wet hand on the right. That's fantastic. Then get that into the flour. Now you want to change over to your left hand to roll it through the flour. Essentially, that's it.
Oh yeah, I'm failing already.
Yes, it'll catch you. Like it'll catch you really quick. I mean, if you have gloves, it's all everyone's got pandemic gloves, so that's always handy. But this is fantastic. Look at that fucking operation. That is sharp as shit. Not even going straight into the oil. I love it. I fucking love it. But what you can do with a couple of pieces as well, if you want, is you can double dip a couple.
Well, would you double dip thighs or breasts, or what's your recommendation?
Well, mean, look, it doesn't make you, in my opinion, it's not the biggest deal double dipping or not double dipping, but it does offer a bit more of a crust. So anything works, like anything really works. It's nice. I think it's nice to double dip the wing, the chicken dinners, the wings.
Yeah.
And they go super crispy.
I'm just getting dirty hands.
Yeah, you fucked it.
Yeah.
Fucked it.
Look at that, filthy.
Yeah, look at it. Look at it. Real amateur hour.
Don't do those bits.
All right, great.
Right.
So now,
Should I put them in?
yeah, let's get them in. Let's get them in. Oh, perfect. Look at that. Beautiful fry. Oh, I reckon you might. Yeah, that's great. Look at that. Okay, so now these are going to take like 13 to 17 minutes, really. You just want to keep an eye on the way in which they're bubbling, the way in which they're cooking down. Obviously, the more that it's frying, what it's doing is it's reacting to the water content within whatever's in there. So if you were to say chuck in a stem of rosemary or something into the fryer, it'd fry up and bubble quite effectively for a couple of minutes. And as soon as it stops bubbling, you know that it's ready to go, like it's sort of being which is a nice way to consider when you're frying things that aren't as obviously cooked as say like chicken or potatoes or something like that. So if you are, say, frying herbs or frying smaller items, you know that they're pretty much ready to go once all of the water that's trying to escape out of it because of the oil has stopped bubbling. So once that bubble's calmed right down, you can essentially just, it's cooked. But yeah, if you did have any rosemary you want to fry up or anything like that, it is a good vibe. Some people love to fry up basil, which I don't quite understand. But rosemary, thyme, all those things, they can be really fun to fry if you're just playing around. As obviously so can sage. Great thing to do with sage is to make up a little batter, roll, dip the sage leaves in the batter, and then put in between. Essentially, you get your 2 leaves of sage, you get some anchovies, you put some anchovies in between the leaves of sage, you dip it into a batter and you fry it. It's always handy. But while you have, oil there, you can do little things like that. Setting up a fucking deep fryer just for a little snack can seem a little bit indulgent, but at the same time, during these pandemic days, YOLO, nothing else to do for at least another 2 weeks in London until the 12th of March when pubs open, when every motherfucker and his dog is going to be at those pubs. And man, that beer is going to taste real good. Like, there's no doubt about that. There's no doubt that beer is going to taste utterly fantastic. Look at that. That's forming a beautiful crust around that fry, Charlie. Look at that. It is just fucking magical. Now, what you have to keep in mind as you're frying, so as you're adding more and more pieces to the fryer, you have to watch out for any sediment that might settle at the base of your pot. So because that is going to that's going to burn, but also what it's going to do is it's going to stop the piece of chicken that's getting there. It's going to sort of connect to that bit of chicken and settle on it. Look at them. They're looking great, mate. They're looking absolutely fantastic. I'd be pretty happy with that initially. Like that's. Now
Can I put in another one? Can I put more in?
Yeah, get more in. Get a wing in. Get a bit of breast in. Get whatever you can fit in. Oh,
I'm
that.
back on the drummies and thighs.
Love it. Oh, there's so much space in there. What a great pot.
There we go. Oh, don't push me.
Oh yeah. God, that's gonna be such a delicious meal. That's gonna be such a fucking delicious dinner. I'm very excited. Very, very excited. Now, were you guys going to make the chili jam as well? Have you made it? Like, what were you thinking? Were you thinking about taking the?
We were, but we were really lazy today.
Failed to get things.
Oh.
We actually have shrimp paste, but nothing else.
Yeah, we've kind of required more effort.
No, I understand.
So we've got barbecue sauce. We've got some chicken gravy.
Yeah. Awesome.
And yeah, we're going to have some mashed potatoes and KFC stuff.
Oh, that's going to be so good. That is going to be fantastic. Oh, good. But yeah, so you do want to mind, like, as you are like pulling chicken in and out of the fryer, you do want to be wary as to how much of the flour is sitting at the bottom of your pot. Because what will happen is it's not so much that it's going to, like, as I was saying, the cooking in the future. What it's actually going to do is that flour will burn and it will catch on other bits of chicken. So as you cook more and more, like, obviously your oil is going to be at a better temperature, but because you can generate this inconsistency across the base of the cooking oven because of any flour or anything that sort of drops off. So it's always good as you pull everything out before you add more. Like you pull something out, just give it like a little clear with your slotted spatula. It's like see if you can take anything up off the base, because it's not so much that it's going to impact the way in which the chicken cooks. It's just that you end up with char stuck to it, and that's what you don't want. You know, and like similarly, if you are using oil over and over and over again, you need to be careful. You don't, the taste of old oil is gross, and it's something you want to avoid where possible. So when you have finished using the oil, clear it with you let it cool, clear it through a sieve, and then put it back into a container, and you can reuse it. But if you've used it for a really long time, 2 or 3 goes, maybe it's time to ditch it. If you are getting rid of oil, just as a measure, try your best not to chuck it down the toilet, especially if you're in London or anywhere. It's not good practice. I do it all the time because I'm a lazy piece of shit, but that's another conversation altogether. I'm not sure if anyone saw a couple of years ago, but there was essentially like a compacted fryer oil the size of X number of double-decker buses in the sewage system in London that was clogging everything up. That and a whole bunch of cocaine is essentially the only thing that ends up in the toilet in London. But don't chuck it down the toilet when possible. Always wait and make sure it's cooled before you dispose of it, though. So my advice would be let it cool overnight, run it through a strainer into a vessel. You can put it back into the vessel it came in, back into the jug. What am I talking about? The bottle that it came in, and then put it down on the street with your rubbish. It just gets collected with normal rubbish. Don't put it down the toilet. Although if you need to put it down the toilet because you can't be bothered to put it anywhere else, then I guess just do that. Just don't tell anyone that I told you to. There aren't that many people on this call, so it's not like word's going to spread like wildfire. Dan Wilson's recommending people put hot oil down the toilet. But if that were to spread, I'd deny it. And even if you said there was a recording of it, I'd deny that as well. Like I'd delete it, and I'd make sure that Zoom had no say in it. Like it would just be gone. This is saved to my computer. It's not saved to the cloud. So come get me, I say. So come get me. Put it down the toilet. Who gives a fuck? I put so much shit down the toilet. It's almost embarrassing. Like you have old soups down the fucking toilet, old stews down the toilet. It's like if there's just stuff that doesn't get eaten, like, the last few weeks I've been living alone the last few months, like six months of pretty much living alone, cooking for one. Like I don't know how to cook for one. What the fuck does that even mean? Cooking for one. You have so much food left over in the fridge and stuff just goes bad, and it's so much easier just to put it down the toilet rather than put it in the sink. So, long story short, try not to put too much stuff down the toilet, but it can hack it. The reason it can hack it is it's got a much wider S-bend than your traditional sink. So if you put your wasted food down the sink, the S-bend is much thinner and stuff's going to get clogged much more easily. But, as you can see behind it, it's got a huge wide S-bend. It's going to be able to take everything you really need it to take. But yeah, so please wait until your oil is cool. Run it, if you want to reuse it, run it through a sieve into the bottle that it was in, and then reuse it. But once it starts to taste like old fryer oil, then you want to be getting rid of it. You can tell from the color change. It will be a much darker color after you've fried, especially when you're frying things like paprika or cayenne pepper in the flour mix. Like it's going to absorb a lot of that color, which is very nice, as will the fry, the chicken that you're frying.
Danny, what do you reckon? How many turns are you getting out of a batch of oil on average?
I reckon you can get 3 turns out of it.
Okay.
If you just say frying a single chicken, you can get 3 turns out of it. It's different. Generally, if you're in a kitchen and you've got your deep fryers on, you would want them changed probably once every couple of days, depending on how much stuff you're putting through there. A lot of people don't do that, which is a bit disappointing, but you should be trying to. You should, if you can change your oil every day, great. It's probably best to. You should be clearing it every day, most certainly. Like you should be running it through a sieve. You should be clearing it, making sure you get all the impurities out, and then cleaning the fryers on a daily basis. But in terms of changing over the oil once every couple of days, it's great. But that's if you're pumping through, a shitload of stuff through that. If you're just frying off one thing like this, if you were to fry this off and then take some of that oil and use it to make the chili jam to fry off the garlic and the onions and the dried chilies and stuff like that, that that would be totally acceptable as well. Keeping in mind what you fry into that oil is going to impact its flavour down the line. So if you were to fry a whole lot of aromats into that oil, and that's going to impact the flavour with what you use it for later. But yeah, 2 to 3 turns is fine. It's totally fine as long as you're clearing out the impurities. It's really not a big deal. No, not a big deal at all. But it can be a bit of a hassle to get it back into its bottom, and not make a mess. And there's nothing worse than spilling lukewarm oil all over the floor or over the kitchen. That's something you want to try and avoid where possible. So I would recommend using 2 to 3 people for the job. If you were to use more than 2 to 3, then people might think you're a bit of a fancy boy. So 2 to 3, though, I think is appropriate. If you can get some people in, I know it's difficult with COVID times, but justify it with the exemption that we're trying to move hot oil. Well, you need to be oil to cool. It's not really that good, but you don't want it to be hot because it goes in normally a plastic bottle. It's going to melt the bottle, and that's not good. I've done that before, so I would not recommend that. But get 2 to 3 people in. Just at least one person to watch over, just to keep an eye on what's happening with the flow rate of the oil, or even to hold the funnel. Yeah, something like holding a funnel. Funnel application is a hard one. Normally when I'm using a funnel, I normally have my left eye closed, and I pinch. I do like a right finger and thumb squeeze on the funnel, just to make sure that you really have it. You don't want to hold it with a full hand because if you lose your balance, and the oil is going to go everywhere. The bottle might fall on the bench, and you want to avoid that again where possible. As much as you want to avoid spilling it, you want to avoid that. So I like a firm pinch with the right thumb and the right forefinger, left eye closed with dedication, so you can watch with your right eye the flow of the oil as it comes down the pot. Now, if you've only got 1 or 2 people, like say it's just you, and you got to manage the hold, the pinch of the funnel, and the tipping of the oil through a sieve at the same time, can get a little trickier. I would recommend doing it over the toilet, just in case things do spill out, and then at least you're saved there. But yeah, 2 to 3 people for that is really good. Charlie, what's the temp of this chicken at? Talk to me. Where are you at? They're sizzling away. They've been in for about 14, 15 minutes. It's looking pretty good. Talk to me, Charlie. What is the temp at? Where are we at?
Oh, we're low.
Pull one of those pieces out of the oil and give it a temp probe out of the oil. Just watch out if oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. Oh, fucking great. Getting there. 45. Fantastic. Getting there. Get her back in. Now, if you do use tongs to pull chicken out of the oil, which I tend to do, which isn't the best way, especially when you cook at home, you got to be really careful because a lot of tongs, you'll pick them up and you'll turn, and the oil will get caught and run down the tong into your hands, which you need to be wary of. I've done that a couple of times. I don't recommend it. Got a few little friends just across these fingers that really took up a lot of space. As I did that, actually, it's what I did the night we opened the last restaurant last November 2019. I pulled a piece of chicken out of the fry just to probe it, because this was a dish that was on our first menu, and I tipped the tongs up, and all the oil ran down over my hands and burnt the fuck out of my hands in quite a nasty way. And I dropped the tongs in the fryer, and I was all disappointed. I was upset with myself. And I had this thought, this kind of realization. I was like, I don't need to be here. I can just leave. I can just leave right now. I don't need to stay. But I did stay. I saw it through. I persevered, and the hand took its beating. It took its time, and now it's okay. Now it's better. There's no doubt about that. There's absolutely no doubt it's better. Now, what you could do, Charlie, I recommend when you after you've fried this chicken off, you want to keep a couple of pieces aside, and keep your buttermilk aside, and keep your flour mix aside. And tomorrow, after it's cooled, give it another run in the buttermilk, the flour, and the oil. So you'll cool some down in the fridge, give it another run in the buttermilk and the flour, and then chuck it in the fryer. And that is like a twice cooked breakfast chicken. That's going to be pretty good, especially if there's leftover mash and leftover barbecue sauce. God damn it! I'm so hungry for chicken right now. The food situation in quarantine isn't so hot. I thought it was okay, but I woke up in somewhat of a delirium this morning when they made the first delivery. What essentially happens is you get a knock at the door, which is like this. Yeah, breakfast, yes, sweet. So you put your face mask on, do your best, put some pants on, you open the door and you pull your breakfast in. At this hotel, it comes in a plastic bag and some kind of like heat-proof styrofoam container. I popped the styrofoam container open this morning. I fell asleep at about midnight last night. I just had a strange realization. It's 5 to 5 in the morning. I'm probably not going to go to sleep for another 16 or 17 hours. I was like, fuck, this is going to be a long day. Shit is going to get very weird. So like a heat-proof styrofoam container. So when I pulled in breakfast this morning, I was somewhat delirious. I'd gone to bed at around midnight. I'd woken up at about 5. And I thought, oh yeah, cool, 5's okay. I can get up now. And I had a glass of water and went back to bed. Woke up at 7:30 with the knock on the door, the breakfast. I pulled it open and I thought, oh, that looks interesting. And I popped open the styrofoam container. I thought, that looks actually pretty good. Like a frittata, a couple of mini hash browns, what looked to be somewhat of a half roasted tomato with some dried herbs on it. I thought, oh, that's acceptable. And, and a care package, plastic bag with some Nutri-Grain in it, because, it's a very good cereal, a Tim Tam, a single Tim Tam unit, and some cheese and crackers, an apple and a bottle of water. And I thought, that's okay, I can deal with this. Oh, and a strawberry yogurt, because it's important to always have a sweet yogurt for breakfast. I should have told them that I can't really take down dairy these days, which I might tell them, I only get off this call, just so I don't keep getting, milk and yogurt, because I can't really eat it, because I maybe shit myself. Which is, that's not appropriate to share. Sorry. Anyway, I went back to bed and I thought, God, it's in a styrofoam. It's gonna be warm for a while. I'll just have a little nap. Anyway, another knock at the door comes. 12:15. Lunchtime. I was like, oh, fucking Jesus, still asleep. Jesus. So I get up and I put my mask on. I pull lunch in, and it's like a phyllo wrap of some sort with what looks to be some style of caponata, and again like another bag. And inside the bag this time there was some more cheese and crackers, another bottle of water, another apple, thankfully, a juice, which I thought was a little bit odd, and a Coca-Cola in a tin, canned Coca-Cola. Now, a strange combination, don't get me wrong, but for lunch, I thought it was acceptable. Anyway, I put it on the side, went back to sleep. Again, 5:45 here, come another knock, and fuck, I really should get out of bed at this point, which I hadn't. And I just thought I was really going to lead into the jet lag. I was like, fuck it, I'm so deep in it now, like nothing's going to make it any better. So I took the dinner and I put it up on next to the breakfast and the lunch, and I opened it up and it was lamb chops with some steamed vegetables in a plastic tub, and again there was a Sprite instead of a Coca-Cola this time, and some Arnott's biscuits in the little package and a bottle of water, which was great. So I decided it was time to get up. I had a cold shower. What's funny about the Sunshine Coast is that the water in the showers isn't all that cold. So it was kind of just a lukewarm shower, which was somewhat disappointing. So I really wanted to shock my system into life. I've been doing these cold showers, morning to morning as a way of really waking up and getting some clarity in the head, especially when there's a lot to do. You have a cold shower, you really get into the day. You start the day fresh. You do some deep breathing. You hold your breath. You focus on, the Wim Hof method, and you can really get a lot of clarity in those moments. Problem is the water's not very cold at this hotel, which is one great problem I have with it. The water really should be cold, because I had this plan where I was going to have cold showers every morning and just scream a lot and make people freak out. Like, that guy is so fucked. He's 12. Like, he's crying in the middle of the night and screaming in the morning, and he's just always naked on his balcony. So I was just hoping to really set a tone for my quarantine stay. So I was a little bit disappointed that I have to fake the fear of the cold. Which is another thing altogether, I guess. But in saying that, the water isn't that cold. So I had a cold shower, or a lukewarm shower, and I got out and I had for myself, an assortment of the food that had been delivered throughout the day. The hash browns by that point were no good. Mind you, they'd been delivered almost 12 hours ago. But they were no good. They were really dry. You could really taste it was pretty bad. Having a deeper look at the frittata, it was pretty bad looking. So I didn't dare go near the frittata, and the tomato looked very unhappy, like it was somewhat unsavory. The phyllo wrap was all right, definitely all right. There are a couple of bags of crisps. Smith's they gave us last night, salt and vinegar. Now, I've spoken about salt and vinegar crisps before here and in this form, and I have to say Smith's, they don't really hold up. They're more of like a kid's version of salt and vinegar, very, very sweet. But as an introduction to the salt and vinegar, pathos generally, I think it's a nice step. But then we had some Red Rock Deli traditionally salted as well, which were thrown in there, so they were pretty good. and I enjoyed those. I haven't had a Red Rock Deli crisp for a while, so I was glad to be reminded of its brilliance. I will be visiting the Red Rock Deli traditionally salted crisp again. If anyone knows people at Red Rock, tell them that I get 7 people on a Zoom call every Saturday, and I'm an influencer, and I'd love some chips. I'd love some chips. I'll even call them crisps. I mean, fuck. I call them crisps. I call them crisps and yogurt and crisps and pasta. All the things that we take from living in London for far too many years. So I had the crisps, and then I had the phyllo thing, which was okay at this point in time. The caponata was very watery and definitely undersalted. I could have just used a bit more time in the pan. I know they probably did in the oven generally, just in a big, they would have cooked in a big, bacon gastro, everything together, kind of like slop. But what's nice though, is if you can single out the portion and give it on a high heat to reduce a lot of the liquid, what you can actually do, especially when you're at home, actually, it's a really nice trick. If you are cooking anything that's sort of like stewy or like, let's say stewy or anything like a caponata, like something that's wet that you feel like the flavor isn't quite there, what you can do is you can reduce it over a really high heat, either on the pan or in the oven. Just give it a little blast. All of the sugars from whatever's in there they're all going to come to the top of the vegetable, and a lot of that liquid is going to be reduced. It's going to disappear. And, a lot of the goodness is in the liquid. So you want to reduce it, and you want to keep those sugars. You want to hold on to the flavor that's in there, but you just don't want it to be so loose and wet. So high heat, 5-10 minutes, especially on the single portions in the pan or in the oven, it can really make a difference. I think I will feed that back absolutely when I call reception later on to tell them about my dairy intolerance. But yeah, so I had the phyllo and the caponata. It was okay. I didn't touch the lamb chops. But I do like the fact that they made an effort on Easter Sunday to put some lamb out. I think that's a really nice touch. Something that most people probably wouldn't recognize. It is Easter Sunday. I was disappointed there weren't any peas and mint, but that's okay. Lamb, I think on Easter Sunday is appropriate. They actually dropped off. I put some rubbish out the front door before we started this call, and they dropped off a little Easter egg, a bunny on the front door. So I'll definitely be eating that later for Easter. Happy Easter, everyone, for tomorrow. Over here in Australia, it's Sunday already, so it is. The Easter bunny has visited. I hope everyone gets to have lots of chocolate and they get to have an enjoyable Easter egg hunt in the morning. The Easter bunny does them well. But I did eat that stuff, and then I jumped back in bed. It was about 6:30, 6:45. I thought, fuck it, I better get some more sleep before the big event this morning, which I did. So the point of this generally is that I'm really leaning into the chaos of jet lag. I think the next few days are going to be pretty rotten, and I'm pretty happy about that. I'm pretty excited. There's a really nice sort of balance that you can strike, I feel, with the jet lag coming back to Australia from Europe, whereby for 4 or 5 days you can be really productive from like 4 in the morning through till 10 in the morning, more productive than you've ever really been. And then all of a sudden you start to crash pretty hard at around 5, 6 p.m. People start to talk to you and your brain just turns to mush, which is an enjoyable thing to experience. So I'm going to try and ride that wave. I'm going to try and ride it right out until like 7 or 8 p.m., shock horror, and try and get some sleep from that point. So yeah, the point being, today is going to be a long day. It is going to be a long day, but I think it's going to be an enjoyable day. It's certainly off to a rocking start. Charlie, have you got chicken out? There is some. Looks like there's some out there. Looks like there's some. Looks like we've got some. Oh. What was it probing at? What temperature?
Is that working better?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
We were probing at about 79 to 86.
Oh, that's great. That's perfect. Great. So if you didn't want to take it that far, you wouldn't have to, but that's a good temp. Like, you're not going to overcook it. It's going to protect itself. That's a nice thing. The brine offers so much moisture, that puts so much moisture into the chicken that it really looks after itself. Even so that's brilliant. What you'll find is sometimes the wings will get right up there, like up into the 90s. That's okay as well. Like that's totally fine. Oh God, it makes me very, very, very hungry. Chicken. Very nice. Very nice dinner. Look at those. Couple of crispy dingers. Jesus, yum. Bloody delicious.
Pretty good.
Pretty bloody good. So when it comes time to eat everything, you can just pop it into the oven for a few minutes. But I would recommend as well holding on to some at least 1 or 2 pieces to double dip tomorrow while the oil's still there. But also some to eat cold. Now it does come up as a really good cold chicken, cold fried chicken recipe, and I would really recommend that. It's really good. So definitely get on that. One of the interesting things about frying chicken is that, I mean, certainly in the UK, very few people do it not in a fancy way, but it's like there aren't that many options beyond going somewhere like KFC or Morley's, or like a hipster fried chicken burger joint, like Chicken Sours, which I'm surprised by because it is such a fun thing to eat. You know, it's a fun thing to serve. You know, have on the table. It's something that I really enjoy doing. Like, you know, you get a whole chicken fried in front of you. That's a lot of chicken, and it's very, very fucking playful. There is no doubt about that. It's extraordinarily playful, and it's something that, you know, as you see, like it does take a bit of effort to do at home. It's well worth it, but it does take a little bit of setup. You know, you have to, you know, get everything ready. Even did you guys manage to find onion powder okay and garlic powder? No, impossible.
No. To be honest, I didn't actually read the recipe until an hour beforehand, so I completely fucked that.
No. I thought you might have. I always struggle to find onion powder in London, which is annoying, which is really annoying. But I thought maybe you'd found a place that had a hot tip. Not that it's really relevant for me for the next 6 months or so, but even still, like, it would have been nice to
Keep an eye out.
keep a fucking eye out. Definitely keep an eye out. Okay, so what went into your fucking flour mix then, Charlie?
Flour mix was some really fucking hot chipotle powder, the chili powder,
Nice.
some smoked paprika,
Right.
salt, and probably about 7 grams of black pepper.
Oh, great. Okay, nice. Now, do you have any chili flakes, Korean chili flakes or anything like that sitting in the cupboard?
Yep.
We have both. We have Korean chili flakes and then just regular chili
Okay,
flakes.
so before you eat it, what I'd recommend is tossing the chicken just with like some extra salt and Korean chili flakes. Give that a toss, because then the flakes will stick into the batter, and it'll increase like the textural heat, which will be really nice. And give it, like, a bit of a toss.
Okay.
You put some more salt. Definitely salt the chicken as well. I mean, give it a taste and see how you feel. But salting it after it's been cooked is also a good idea. You know, you do have to be very. Keep in mind the brine wasn't a heavy brine; it's only a 5% brine. A lot of people push it to 10, which really impacts the meat quite heavily. Whereas a 5 is a bit softer, so it gives you the opportunity to flavour and season outside of that in a different way, which I think is really nice, really nice. You know, there's nothing. Oh, we used to make a smoked chili powder for this, which was really nice. So you get a bunch of different chilies. So you get some arbol and some ancho and some Morito chilies, and you'd put them into a dry wok or into a dry pan over a medium heat until they start to brown. No, they're dried chilies, right? So they're already dry, but you want to brown them and smoke them a little bit in the pot. Once they've started to brown on both sides, you pull them out and you dry them out again. You take the stalks off them, and once they've all dried, you just blitz them. So essentially, you've smoked these dried chilies, you've dried them further so they're a bit crispier, and then you blitz them in a Vitamix and then mix them all up together, and you get this like wonderfully fragrant kind of really umami rich chili powder. So if you have any leftover dried chilies and I guess a high speed blender or a spice blender that could do the job on that, I would highly recommend it. But it is impossible without a high speed blender or a spice blender. I had a beautiful little old Braun spice blender from the 70s that I came across. There was a fantastic piece of kit. You know, you could use it to grind coffee. You could use it for spices were the best. But you know what I really like to use it for was blending these chilies. And I thought it was a really good idea one day to use it to cut up a whole bunch of marijuana, and all of a sudden the spice blender was fucked because all of the wax and the stickiness, the sticky icky so to speak, got stuck in the spice blender, and that spice blender died. Pretty awful death. Drugs are bad for spice blenders, and they're bad, you know, generally across the board. I think it's important to recognise. Although apparently, you know, if you tell your doctor in the UK that you have a problem with small spaces and you need a letter saying that you have claustrophobia, they'll give you diazepam. So that's a hot tip for anyone who's in the UK and you want a bit of fucking, morphine-based muscle relaxants. Highly recommend it. Actually, a couple of years ago, when we at the end of 2019, 2020, I was invited to a bunch of parties on New Year's Eve to celebrate the end of the year. There are a lot of parties that I should have gone to that I didn't go to. I decided to take time to myself and really just enjoy the night. I made myself a very comforting pasta dish. I make sort of like a reduced suyo dish that I really love. Put a fucking bit of burrata through it. Even though I can't take the dairy, I was like, fuck it, you know what? It's New Year's Eve, YOLO. Took down a couple of bags of crisps, which I was pretty happy with. I smoked a little bit of a spliff. I was like, it's New Year's Eve, Dan. You don't have to work tomorrow. Things are going to be great. So I made this pasta. I had some bags of crisps. I put on some TV. I watched a movie. And then I thought, you know what I'm really going to do? I know I'm not going out to celebrate. I'm not going to any parties. I'm just going to put on Hamilton and I'm going to dance around the house because it's a great musical. And if you haven't seen it or heard it, I highly recommend listening to it. The first 5 tracks will just blow your mind. They'll be stuck in there like fucking earworms for years to go. And then if you get past the first 5 tracks, but you're in for a great story, I'd also recommend going to see the show if you can. I mean, obviously, it's not on in the Northern Hemisphere at the moment, but it is on in Australia. So anyone who's in Australia, I'd highly recommend trying to get tickets if you can get them. Apparently, it's very hard, and it's only showing in Sydney. But it's a fantastic show. So seeing in the West End was quite a pleasure. It was quite a pleasure. I was very disappointed. Actually, I was dating a girl at one point who knew one of the sort of the higher ranked cast members, and she said she'd get me tickets anytime I wanted to go because it's one of my favorite things, Hamilton. Turns out that the promise of tickets to a musical during the pandemic though isn't really all that valuable. It's a fucking pandemic. There are no fucking musicals on. Anyway, that being said, not really relevant. The point was I was dancing around a Hamilton and I threw my back and I did some kind of weird move that I hadn't done before. I was out of the practice of my normal routine and my back went a little bit and I was like, that's a weird feeling. I haven't felt that before. And it really hurt. And I was like, fuck, okay, well, maybe I'll just calm it down. So I had another beer and I went to bed. And I was helping my friend Manel De Silvio move the next day. And we weren't doing too much heavy lifting because I had a sore back, but I was driving because he doesn't have a driver's license. So we had to move a couple of streets, but there's a lot of stuff. So it was easy to load into the car and then drive it around instead of walking. So we got outside his house. And I was like, listen, I got a bit of a sore back. He said, don't lift too much. And I was like, fuck it, I'll just take this box. And I went down. I feel like I've got pretty good shape when it comes to lifting. Always lift with the legs, always keep a straight back, always just, look after yourself. And I went to do that. And as I was down there, sort of over my knees, lifting this box, my back just went and it seized up and I couldn't move. And I sort of had to crawl back, get in the driver's seat. And I sat there in an enormous amount of pain. I was in more pain than I've been possibly ever. It was a very difficult time. Anyway, we continued moving. I didn't do any more lifting, but we got the job done and I went home. And I was like, you know what will solve this? Like, I'll open a bottle of wine, I'll order a pizza, I'll relax. This will be better by tomorrow. This is fine. Anyway, I was in a lot of pain that night and I woke up the next day unable to move. I crawled to the bathroom and then ended up in the bathroom on the toilet, sort of, undressed, and I came off the toilet and there was a lot of mess and I didn't really know what to do. And I was like, do I call my housemate for help? Like, not wearing any pants, there's fucking stuff everywhere. And I realized I had a real problem. My back had seized up. Like, I couldn't walk. I was meant to be back in the kitchen 3 days later and I couldn't walk. I couldn't move. I'd really hurt myself. So I called the doctor and I explained what happened and they gave me some diazepam as a muscle relaxer. So I took it the first day and it helped a little bit. And I took it the second day and it helped a lot more. And I took it the third day and then I was back in the kitchen and I was like, right, I'll just, I'll take it just before service so that I don't feel any pain when I'm going through service. Because for some reason, somehow we'd only been open for a few weeks, but the day that we opened back up in January, we were fully booked, like we were more than capacity. So we were having a busy night. And, I hadn't been there for the prep day, so I was a bit worried. It's really hard. Meanwhile, I just found out that a girl I'd been in love with recently had just gotten married to a guy in the US, which was tough to deal with. And I found that out over the phone right before I took this muscle relaxant. But all the food that I served that night looked fucking amazing. Like, there's really something about the sadness that comes out in terms of the preparation, the plating of food. Like, all the food was fucking exceptional. I think January the 4th at Dandy 2020 was one of the best nights in terms of the execution of the food that we've ever had. High on fucking diazepam, very, very sad. But, the food looked good. Like, all of the colors, they were so rich. Like, everything was really popping, especially for a winter menu, which you don't expect. Anyway, the feedback on the night was very good. Everyone had a great time. But I got home that night. What happened was, because I'd been without pain for a few days, I came to realize that actually I got a real problem with my sciatica. And then I'd been in pain generally for like the last 15 to 20 years without fail. I just hadn't really clicked. It just normalized in my brain that this pain was always there. Anyway, as soon as that went away, Oh, God, I tell you what, I slept very well that night. That's all I have to say. I slept very well that night. Anyway, the point is, if you get hold of some diazepam, it's very nice for sleep, but it is highly addictive. Because it is a morphine-based, it's an opioid, you do want to stay away from it. But I was given, for my back blowing out that time, I was given 3 pills, right, over the course of 3 days. The last one I broke up half over the course of, I think. For claustrophobia, they gave me 6 pills. 6 pills. Unbelievable. And she recommends that I took 1 3 times a day when I arrived in the room. And I was just like, that is fucking bonkers. Like, that is crazy. I found out there's a really lovely guy in London called Vaughan Tarr. Very intelligent motherfucker. He studied organizational change at MIT. And I met him through a writer at one of the editors from The Atlantic, a guy named Corby Kummer, who's like an old, very old food writer in the US. And we became friends when I was at university in Italy. And he introduced me to Vaughan, and Vaughan and I became chummy. And I saw Vaughan not long after my back went out, and I was telling him what I'd been given. And he said, apparently, like if you take a full prescription for more than 4 days, something happens in your brain and you become very addicted to it very, very quickly, which is why they have such short prescriptions for it. But anyway, bit of a hot tip. If you do have a bad back and you do have muscle pain, diazepam is fantastic. Just try not to have a bad back is the best advice. If you do have problems, I went and started seeing this lovely guy named Jesse Farmer before I left London, who gave me some wonderful exercises to really calm the back and to release the pain through the hips and through the lower legs, which I'll be getting onto right after this session. Actually, I feel like start the day well, start the day hard, with some stretching and some roll muscles. How's the chicken looking, Charlie? Talk to me. I'm so glad you're cooking along today. I'm so glad.
Having a nightmare where can you hear me?
Yeah. What's happened?
Yep. Well, it's getting really brown, but the core temperature is only about 58 degrees. So I don't know whether it needs to come out and go into the oven.
Yeah, they could do. What's the temperature of the oil?
Let's see.
So they'll be getting browner because the cayenne and the chipotle powder would have burnt off into the oil.
So it's now at 145, 150.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I've just chucked a wee wing in.
Yeah. So I think the reason they would be colouring like that is because of the powders that are in there. Yep. So they would have bled into the oil, and the oil would be a darker colour generally because of the chipotle and the cayenne. But if they're browning to the point where you're worried they're going to burn, get them out and get them in the oven for sure. That's definitely the best.
Yeah,
thing to do. That's definitely the best thing to do.
Coming out.
How many more pieces do you have? Look at that. Jesus, yummy.
Oh, yeah.
But these two.
So just the breasts?
Yeah, well, half breasts, I guess.
Yeah, have they been cut in half?
Yeah, so they were two. So they were the Supremes, the front half of the Supreme that just came out that was overcoloring, and this is the second half.
Okay, so what you can actually do is even cut those pieces in half down the middle.
Yep. All right.
They're quite big, like they've obviously got a lot of water weight attached to them.
Length or
like that, yeah.
This way or yeah.
I'll do 1 and 1 if you like. It's up to you.
Oh.
Try different weights.
What a treat. What a blunt, shitty pairing though.
Yeah, because because they are so big, they will take longer, and that means they might start taking on more.
Yeah.
So we'll just reduce the size of them, and it will certainly have a really positive. I'd say it will have a positive impact.
All right. Good to
It will
know.
also mean you have more pieces at the end of everything, which is a nice thing.
More crispy.
All right. I'm just going to give these another.
Yeah, do that. Yeah, get them in. Give them a double. It's actually a nice way. If you double dip the breast, that's a nice. That is a nice thing. Give them a little bit of extra crisp. Double dip them hard.
There we go. Ooh, they are sticky.
Sticky boys.
They are. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why it's important to have a clean hand, and a dry hand, and a wet hand. You
Yeah, that's. I tried doing that, and it was a disaster.
It's hard. It's
It was
really
all just
hard.
wet hand. It was 2 wet hands.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know how it feels. I've been there. I've been there many times.
Got to
Wet hand in the middle
up
of
my
the
game.
It's not good fun. It is not good fun whatsoever. Oh, look at this. Yes. This is bloody beautiful. Oh fuck, they're frying up. They're frying up well. So just keep an eye on those and the way they're colouring. They should cook a lot better now that they're a bit smaller.
All right.
So,
Did
yeah.
I get a bit overexcited?
No, you didn't get a bit overexcited. These things just, who's to know? Who's to know? But it is looking really nice. Oh god. Oh, really. See, I think all those guys are looking really good. I like the darker ones too. But definitely get them in the oven. Have you got the oven on?
Yeah, I just chuck them in now.
Right. Yeah. Look at that. Bloody perfect. Bloody perfect. Meanwhile, for everyone that's interested, I'm just going to give you a little tour of my quarantine do's. Now I can't exit the door because that'll be breaking the quarantine rules, but we can start at the door. So if you have a look here, this is the door. This is where we get in. There's a nice point here of reflection. So there's the first window. Give everyone a wave. And then we walk down here and we'll turn right. We'll go into the bathroom. Now the bathroom is quite we've got a nice little bath here. We've got a few windows there for the production of content. And then we have a shower over there. The toilet is set behind here. Now, one thing that's interesting about this hotel room is there's no scrubbing brush for the toilet, which is interesting because I think it's always important to keep a clean base. But that's another thing. So we've got like a nice hallway. The hallway would span maybe like we're looking like 6 meters, right? So we're walking. We look to the right. There we are. So this window over here looks down onto the highway, which is pretty empty at the moment. As it is 5 in. You have some some wardrobes here. So we'll go back. This is the little kitchenette area. Here's the fridge. Lovely little fridge. What's in there, you say? Oh, not much. There's a Sprite and some milk. So then we have over here. This is the Badoo, and then opposite the Badoo, there's television and the desk that I've been sitting on just here. And then opposite the desk on the other side is a little couch and a little coffee table. Now, the real highlight is this here, the fact that we do have a balcony and we do have a lovely view of the ocean. So you can't really see much, I'm sure. If I want to take a step out here, there's a nice warm breeze. There's a lovely sound of the ocean. It smells salt at the beach. It's been a while. It's fucking very nice to be able to have that. So, well, the internet connection I've just been told is unstable. Hopefully it readies itself up. But yeah, so it's not too bad in here. I think it'll be an okay couple of weeks. It'll be an okay couple of weeks, which is a very, very good thing. Very good thing. How are you guys? How many more pieces of chicken do you have left to fry?
We have 4 of those little ones in there, so
That's it.
They're going to be done in a minute.
Oh, that's very exciting. That is very, very.
But we've used every tray we own, so with
that's
tiny
another problem.
trays in the oven.
Yeah, I know that is also another issue. I'm aware of that. It's difficult to organise, but it's worth it. It's fucking definitely worth it. Absolutely definitely worth it. Now next week.
Other than that, we've got. Sorry, you go.
Oh, so I was going to say next week, I was going to send out a couple of recipes based on like cream cheese. So based on one recipe that's essentially a play on a burnt basque cheesecake. If people want to try and make that, it's interesting with that recipe. It's all to do with your oven, so things can certainly be touch and go. But there will also be another one which is more of like a baked cream caramel, which is like it's a cheese and milk and cream. It's then boiled in a ramekin to be essentially a set custard. So there'll be a couple of things that we'll go over. Again, it'll be a lesson that's very much so like this. It's not the most interactive or engaged, but very soon they'll be back in the kitchen and we will be able to enjoy cooking along together very, very, very soon. But in saying that, I guess at this point in time, might be a good time to say goodnight to everyone and wish everyone a happy Easter. Thank you very much for coming by again tonight. It's nice to see so many familiar faces and names. It's nice to be
Legend, Danny boy.
And,
Thank you so much,
Thank
Danny,
you.
and thanks
Thank
to
you.
Alex team for doing the cooking tonight. It's been dynamite.
I'm sorry you had to watch some real amateur stuff, but
No, it's looking good. It's making us hungry on this end.
yeah, fucking A.
gotta get some fried chicken.
Listen, have a good night. It's great to see everyone, and I'll speak to you.
Cheers, Dan.
Thanks,
Thank
Ben.
you.
You guys.
Danny boy. Catch ya.
Bye.